going on, guys? It's Cal here from KR Sabers. So this is just a really quick video before the overview video covering some tips and tricks with regards to the Fortis and how to disassemble it. I'm just waiting for the master chassis to arrive before I do the overview video showing it off and sort of how it works. So when you get the hilt from me, it'll be wrapped in tissue paper just because I'm checking them beforehand. This is one that I just got straight out of the box. Now, as you can see in transit, the cover tech came off. So let me get that back on there. So I just took this out of the box quickly. 2.5mm Allen key. Okay, that's back on now. So obviously I've got gloves on because it's a very, very shiny hilt and it's a bit of a fingerprint magnet, so I did prepare myself. Now, the first thing you want to do when you get the hilt is just to check if any screws have come off in transit. Now, no parts have been permanently secured on because the main part of this kind of design is for etchers to get creative. As you guys know, with the flagships, the Regis, we incorporate shrouds into those designs because we love what you guys do with doing etching and different designs. So just check to make sure the 4 gold screws are here, which they are. Then we want to check that these screws didn't come out, these little M2 grub screws, which they haven't. So looks like we're all good to go. It doesn't seem to be any loose screws on here or anything like that. If you do find a loose screw, just make sure that when you're opening this, you do it over a flat surface. It might have fallen somewhere in here. The reason why we don't permanently attach any of the parts again is so that you guys can easily remove the shrouds. So it's pretty simple. You've got this pommel here, so you can just grab the ring and this to take this off. And you've got this outer ring. You'll notice there's a screw in here, which is for the D-ring. That uses a 1.27mm Allen key. You can buy RC driver sets, so like remote control RC, on Amazon, and they come as a set. You get like a 0.9, 1.27, 1.52 and 2.5. They're super useful drivers to have. I use them all the time. And you've got a cone point grub screw in here, which if you loosen, you can see this moves around. And if you tighten it and push it down into the opening of the triangle loop, let's get this in here, you can see it immediately stops this from moving, and you can adjust the tightness and so on. So I do mine a little bit so it doesn't move around, but it can still do that. You might be wondering why this rotates. That's because when the chassis, the eco chassis is in, this pushes against the chassis, and then you can like align this nicely and it doesn't shake. That's why on the eco chassis, eco CC, you'll see that extension over the speaker. That actually helps with the resonance chamber. It was part of the design. So don't be worried if this is rattling around or moving around the insert. When you do your chassis design, or if you use the eco chassis, just have it so that your speaker pod pushes against this and it keeps it nice and snug, which I'll demonstrate in the overview video. So you've got your pommel there. Now you've got your cover tech. That uses a 2.5mm hex screw. I've literally just taken it off, but I'll put it back on, sorry, and I'll take it off again. So that comes out, loosen this, put that there. This slides out, disassembly. So we've got some little bit of dust there. Now you've got these 4 M2 grub screws. These use 0.9. These grub screws don't fasten anything. It just kind of keeps this from falling out. The reason why we have these grub screws is because of the concept design. It's meant to look like rivets. So we decided to do those with some grub screw accents. When you're done with your etching, or when you're done with whatever your design is, what I like to do is I like to Loctite these in, and I'll demonstrate that later. So you've got 1, 2, do this, 2, 3, and 4. That's those 4 grub screws, and this will just come off like that. That's the lower shroud. If you want to etch that, that's how you take this off. Second, the buttons, they're not screwed in super tight. You can just loosen them, out they come. This one's a bit more difficult to grab, but if you get it in the right spot, what I'll do is I'll take the shroud off first to get in the way. So 1.27mm Allen key for these, and you just want to loosen one, and these are M2 also. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's that one out. Then this can kind of slide down and up like that. It'll slide off. So you've got the shroud. Now you guys could etch that if you want to. This is a bit easier to grab now. Oh, look at that. Literally, I was just getting it in the right spot. Oh, there we go. We've got, you don't really need to take this off, but that's the screw for it. This is pretty simple, you know, it's just a 2mm hex screw. It just fastens that on. And then you can slide that off if you want. I just leave it on because, yeah, like, it doesn't have any effect on what I'm doing. Now, people are asking about why this is a bit loose. So this is a contrasting part. I wanted brass inside the blade, but for it to be black anodized on the outside. It's loose so that it can maintain concentricity when the blade goes in. So if I take the blade retention screw out with a 1.5mm hex key, like so, this is clear now. And also just check for any burrs or anything, guys. Sometimes when I get these hilts, I'll always get a little bit of sandpaper and just sand any burrs, just a little piece, and I'll just go in here lightly, check for any burrs, just in case, like that. Any dust, so just in case when I put the blade in. So you see how it's rattling, and then when you put the blade in and do the blade retention screw, see how it no longer rattles? It's just because it's trying to get the concentricity of the part. So when the blade goes in, everything's aligned right, and you don't get that rattling anymore. So if it's annoying to hear the rattle when you're using, or when the blade's not in, that's absolutely fine. There's some tricks that you can do. So 0.9mm hex key. You got 2 of the alignment screws for it here. Loosen that, and now you've got the part out. So, few options that you've got. You guys can add a little bit of glue in this area and this area, and you can put it in and use a blade to keep it in and let it cure. I would probably advise against doing that in case it seeps through these gaps. What you'd rather do instead is you can put something here, and just this face will hold on to it. What I like to do, because it's not a permanent solution, is I just get a little piece of Kapton tape. So if you get a piece of Kapton tape, which is like this stuff here, Kapton tape, really cheap, Kapton, and I just get a little piece, and I leave the blade retention hole free. I just go around like this, and I don't pass the blade retention screw hole. Let's go right up to it, to about there, and then I'll fold it back, and I'll just cut that piece off, just with a pair of scissors, you know. So I've got that there now, on that edge. Then you want to get a fresh, or relatively fresh, just a sharp X-Acto knife blade. We call them Stanley knives here in England. You just want to go around, cut off the excess, like so. That way you're not using glue or anything, it's just like a non-permanent solution. Push that back in, and it's much less of a rattle now. Works pretty nicely. And then I use my 0.9mm, and I just punch the Kapton tape, because Kapton tape's super thin. And I get my 0.9mm hex key and the M2 screw, and wait for it to be flush. Yep, there's one, and then there's 2. So right now, it's not rattling anymore. And that's just with that little piece of tape. and it'll still have a little bit of movement, so your blade can go in, see, in there nicely. So no more rattle, and yeah, that was just a little piece of tape there. Now we can put the shroud back on. Ooh, so you kind of slide it in like this, and then push up. It's back on like that. So we've got these 4 screws, 1.27mm hex key. I usually start with the top, but I don't tighten all the way, so I put one in, a few little turns, put 2 in, a few little turns, then I do the bottom. Little turns, and then this other one. So now I'm just going to go around, and I'm not going to use hardly any force. I'm just going to do that until I feel the resistance there, because these are only M2 screws. Resistance there. Yeah, I can feel the resistance there. And this one I can feel, yeah, don't want to go any more than that. So that's in there now. I'll put the blade retention screw back in. That's back on. I'll put this back on like that. Cover tech can go back on. 2.5mm hex key. Like that. Main button. In there now. This one. That one's back in there now. Got this plate. I'm going to put that to one side. So what I do, guys, is you can get a little bit of scrap paper or something like that, and this is Loctite blue thread locker. Put a little blob on here like so. So we've got the first small grub screw. So I've got it on the end of my tool there. I'll quickly clip this back on, which goes this way. And I'll get this sheet and I'll just roll the grub screw in it. That easy. And I'll put the first one in. So that has now been thread locked, and thread lock isn't a permanent solution. I wouldn't use glue or anything, just thread lock so that it can be more resistance against vibrations. Next one. Anything that seeps out you can just wipe, use a tissue after, something like that. I'm just using my glove at the minute. No, so there's one there, just make sure it's sitting flat, which it is. Next one, get on there. Just get a tissue. There's that one. And last one. And you just let that cure. Just roll it in that, because it will get all into the threads and into this one. Nice and easy. Again, rub it there. Clean it. And there we have it. And the pommel can go back on. Oh, the big lip at the bottom. And that is that. So I'll throw that away. So we've got it all checked, all looked over. A few little marks from my finger. So I'm using a 0.9mm Allen key, 2mm Allen key. You've got 1.27, you've got 2.5, and you've got 1.5. That's all the types of Allen keys that I use in this video. I've got some fingerprint marks over it, it seems. So I'll give that a little bit of a wipe and make it a bit cleaner. And guys, I'm trying to find a mark so I can show you whilst I'm here in the video. All right, here's a good example. So you see like this mark here, if I rub it with a tissue, see how it doesn't go? This is, obviously the surface is polished. So if you want to try and keep the polish, or well, maintain the polish, because you can't ever really keep the polish if you're just going to be handling it every now and then. It's kind of like the whole iPod Classic thing back in the day. You know how you would put it in your pocket and then straight away you'd have scratch marks on the back. So I use Autosol metal polish. You can buy these on Amazon as well. You get like a microfiber cloth with it as well. And all you can do is, so if I've got this mark here, you see this little mark here? If that is frustrating to see, or you want to kind of polish it out, this is the stuff to use. So you just literally get, it's like a cream, get a microfiber cloth, and sometimes I'll put it on my finger like this, because you only need like that much, right? And say I don't like this mark, and I want to give the cover tape a new finish, I can just pop it around like that. And what there is a little fine abrasive inside this compound, and I'm just gonna use this to kind of polish a circle. So you see that right there, that's it, removing dirt, scum. So look at that, you got a nice radial mirror finish, and that's kind of how you can touch up little marks on hilts and stuff like that. If you didn't like that mark, you can just polish it right off. So I hope this is a helpful video, guys. Obviously I've been rambling for about 20 minutes now, but I thought it would quickly cover the breakdown of the hilt, what to do when you open it, and so on. If it's useful, let me know in the comments below. I'll put this one back in the box, and I'll probably wrap it up in some tissue paper soon. Get that out to one of you guys, get it out to one of you lovely customers. And yeah, if there's any questions that you guys have, just let me know. But there's some little tips and tricks for you. Cheers, guys. Peace.